All right, here we are. Welcome to another episode of Frags and Beer Radio News. We're streaming at you live. So again, as usual, you're going to see all the bugs and bells and whistles and all the mistakes that we make as we talk about this past week's news in gaming and geek culture. If you're joining us live, you can join us on the chat. Tell us what you think. If you have any questions, let me know how the sound was. We had some issues with sound last week. Let me know how the video plays. I know there was a slight delay. Hopefully we don't have any skips this time. I am being joined by two guests, rejoined by Gwen Knight, indie developer and friend of mine who we spoke with on one of our first shows. Thanks for joining us, Gwen.
You're welcome.
And also by Crymson Pleasure of Real Women of Gaming, a site that I write for from time to time. Somebody that runs a wonderful, it helps with the help of a lot of people, runs a very wonderful anti-bullying project, a good site that covers a lot of women's issues in gaming and just gaming in general, geek stuff, conventions and everything. Thanks for joining me, Crymson.
Anytime.
And of course, again, we've got Russell back, who is one of our writers and is writing for, where's your latest article out, Russell?
Burn the Meeting. It's a new website. It's philosophical in nature.
So definitely go check that out. Check his Twitter feed for links to that and everything else. So we're going to touch on a couple of quick things, and then we're going to touch on three topics that are kind of close to my heart and from the projects I've been working on the last couple of years now and the various things I've been involved in. But on a light note, and some things I'm very happy about, hopefully have any of you seen, hopefully at least one of you has seen Bladerunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it, yes, also.
Okay.
Once a very long time ago, and liquor was involved.
I
barely remember it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I saw it. It is old school sci-fi. It is a little dry. It's dated, but I saw recently announced that Blade Runner 2 is a go.
I actually saw that, and I'm really excited. It actually is the first time in years I've actually wanted to go back and watch the original Blade Runner. I was like, well, I might as well catch up.
Awesome.
I watched the director's cut. That's the first time. That's the only time I've watched it.
Uh-huh.
Is that substantially different from the original one?
There's actually quite a few different cuts depending on, from what I've heard, the theatrical cut, the DVD cut, because there were a couple different endings that were used and different edits that were used.
Because I did not like the director's. I just found it boring. Nothing happened throughout almost the entire movie.
It is a dry movie. It is kind of, like I said, it's old school sci-fi. It's very, they tried to make it very cerebral. And it's a very...
I couldn't understand the philosophical point they were making. That was the problem.
Yeah. But Blade Runner 2 is Harrison Ford, I guess, is signed on. I'm not sure in what capacity yet. I'm sure he's going to reprise his role, obviously, but I don't know if it's going to be sort of a passing of the torch for a new franchise or what yet.
To inevitably die at the end of the movie.
Hopefully, because I love Harrison Ford, but honestly, dude's getting old, and action movies are not always great with a guy who, I mean, looks like he might need a walker in a year or two.
Yeah, but he still looked great at Star Wars.
He did.
Yeah.
He did a real good job with that. There was one scene, actually, and this is what made me think of it. There's one scene where he's climbing up out of the hole. If you remember the destruction of the temple at Ma's place, when they come up out of the ground and him and Chewbacca come out and he comes out shooting, he looked like an old man trying to get out of a chair. Like, that was the one scene where I went, oh, man, he is getting old.
Yeah, I see what they should do for Indiana Jones. They're going to do another Indiana Jones, because Disney owns the rights.
As long as Shia LaBeouf's not in it.
No, okay, here's how I think. Here's what they do. For the next one, they ignore the fourth one ever happened, because they can just do that. Ignore the fourth one ever happened.
Yeah, like Highlander 2.
And just basically do the third one, but with Indiana Jones playing the role of his father, essentially, and have his son, played by presumably Chris Pratt, just take over the franchise.
Cool. I like Chris Pratt.
Because Chris Pratt just makes sense.
Yeah.
He just makes sense.
I'll watch Chris
He's already
Pratt.
done Han Solo.
Why don't we just freeze him in carbonite until we can reverse aging?
that would be
That's a good
too.
idea.
That would be good too.
Cryogenics is unfortunately not where it needs to be for that stuff to happen. But
that would be awesome. And also along that same line, Wolverine 3 is definitely shooting for an R rating, and all signs point to an Old Man Logan storyline. I'm not sure which one.
Not been confirmed yet. 100% confirmed yet, but it seems like Old Man Logan is likely.
Yeah, and I like this, and not the same R as I don't know if Crymson, you saw Deadpool, right?
Of course, I
Seen it
saw
yet?
Deadpool
Hey,
twice.
Gwen, have you gone to seen it yet?
Same here.
Nah, but I've got all the spoilers already.
Okay. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but it is definitely
I already
a
have
hard...
it 100% spoiled.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a hard R. It's got all the elements of a true R-rated film, and I
Wait,
don't
no,
think...
Deadpool?
Yeah.
Oh no, I've seen that. Sorry,
Okay.
I just got back from the hospital. No,
Oh,
me and my
no
partner
worries.
saw it for Valentine's Day.
Nice. And
So
you
did
enjoyed
I.
it, I hope too.
Happy
Good.
International Women's Day.
Yeah. It was.
Yes.
was-
She wrote a review about it, actually.
Did she? I'll have to check that out.
I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, that's right. Your part. I totally forgot about that. That is right. We'll have to plug that at the end too, because I read that review and I really enjoyed that. That was very good. But Wolverine, I think I like the hard R of Deadpool. I don't think will work with Wolverine. So I hope that they're going to do it right. Like Wolverine is a very violent character. He's on that part of the R spectrum, more of the Rambo, very graphic, violent kind of thing. I mean, you can obviously put a little sex in there. Everybody wants to see Hugh Jackman's butt again, I'm sure. But definitely different as far as an R rating. I'm hoping they go with.
I imagine he could just, for an action scene that could be R-rated, he just like an entire faceless group of like gun-toting mercenaries try to kill him, and he just goes berserker rage on them, and like blood squibs everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be.
I want to
like
see that.
Yeah.
The only reason I think it does the only thing that makes sense with Wolverine doing an R is for blood and guts. I mean,
Yeah.
I honestly I'm worried that this is a bandwagon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So-
Obviously,
Well, he does seem like the kind of person that would curse if he could, though.
he would.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
he did.
Like
He
Old
did.
Man
He did in X-Men First Class.
yeah.
Right.
That was one of the best scenes in that movie.
But you need
Fuck off.
more to get
Yeah.
an R
Yeah.
rating.
Oh,
Like,
am I
think
allowed to
you
curse?
You need a lot.
Yes, you're
Yeah, you're allowed to curse. Yeah.
You do need more, and I think I am afraid. I agree with Crymson. I'm afraid that obviously some franchises are going to try to jump on this, and they're going to fail miserably. But when the CCA disappeared, the Comics Code went away. Marvel released. I don't know if you guys remember the Marvel Max line. Some of them were good, some of them were not good. But Wolverine, Punisher, Deadpool, and there were a couple others. Those were the first to go into the Max line. So Wolverine, Deadpool, Punisher, those were always meant to be more adult, more graphic, more violent stories. So I think if they do it right, they can do it good. But if obviously they made an R-rated Punisher and it wasn't that great. So they could fail
Wait,
too.
the first Punisher or the second Punisher?
The third
Or the third Punisher.
I didn't even know this was a third Punisher.
Dolph
Okay,
Lundgren,
there was the Dolph
Thomas
Lundgren version,
Jane.
then there was the one
Oh,
with
yeah.
John Travolta as the villain, and then
Yeah.
there was that one called Warzone with Jigsaw and Looney
Oh,
Bin Jim.
I like
Here's
the second one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gwen.
Warzone had one of the most brutal action scenes in like the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
He just breaks in on a mafia fight and he like cuts a dude's face in half. That was just brutal.
Right.
That was brutal.
What were you saying, Gwen?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at Deadpool, it had some people that were originally passionate about the source material, and that's why it turned out so well.
Yeah.
Whenever you see people making something like these and they're not really passionate about the source material, it ends up badly. And then, this movie is... Yeah, that's just what happens. When you're touching one of these properties, you gotta be passionate for it. You gotta love it. You gotta be like a fucking fanboy. Or it's just gonna end up like complete shit.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. They need passionate. Just let the writer find passionate writers who are going to do their job, and let them write the damn movie. If it's really bloody, if there's sex, if there's a lot of cursing, and they're true to form, then let it go. If it
But
gets
marketing is afraid. Marketing is afraid that if they try to push boundaries, that it's going to end up really bad.
Well, this is also the same marketing that says that women don't see superhero movies. So
I know
screw them.
this.
Right.
Hey,
There's a lot of
the
change
characters-
that's definitely
of all the
happening.
characters that can get an R-rated movie, that now that Deadpool has worked and is a niche character that could work in an R-rated setting, the Flaming Carrot. Just make that into a movie. I would see that in a heart. Because he was the first absurdist superhero, and he wore a carrot foam mask that he sets on fire. I mean, crazy. He always wears swimming flippers because you never know when he's going to need them. And he has a nuclear-powered pogo stick as his primary transport.
I'm afraid
I mean, he's
that might
crazy.
That might go down the road of a bad rip-off of Deadpool at this point.
Well, Mystery Men, that very '90s movie from the late '90s.
I love the Mystery Men.
Was
Yeah,
based
it was a good
on
little
was
niche
based
thing.
on a splinter group from the Flaming Carrot comic books. I mean, is what it's
True,
based
yeah.
on. Yeah.
So that's the couple of easy things I wanted to touch on. But then there, like I said, there's three things, and I definitely want to get everybody's feedback because and you guys some of you may wonder why I gathered you, but I have an intention because I know there's going to be some varying opinions, but I think there's going to be a lot of positive, constructive agreement on the way some of this works. The really easy one, and I sent you guys all the Forbes article about broken game reviews. We've been dealing with it as gamers for a long time. Game reviews that are either that pander to a certain market, or you can tell that the person either A, didn't like the game and wrote the review just to get paid, or they liked the game so much that they practically just had sex with the review.
I've done that.
And so that article touched on specifically Street Fighter V because this is the most, and hopefully I'm understanding this right. I haven't played the game, so I'm going based on what I've read and what I've heard. But from what I understand, this game released, it's multiplayer only. There's no single player element, and on release day the servers were broken. So everybody who pre-ordered this game, who bought this game on day one, who went home to play this game, couldn't play this game, and the bad side to that is having no single player element, or no versus the computer element, so to speak, in the game. There was nothing to do with it. Like, this was the premier definition of a broken game. This wasn't Battlefield 3 that some people couldn't play and some people could play, and there were bugs and stuff. This was a game that people could not play, period. And the problem is the review embargo was lifted day one. So all these magazines who had written these reviews could release their reviews on day one of their play before opening day, and they gave it 9s and 10s and 9.5s and 8s and all these really high scores. And all these people are looking at these reviews going, I have a game I can't play, and you think this game was awesome. What? Like, as gamers, that's like slapping us in the face with our own balls. Like, why would you do that, you know? And that's what that article covers. And have you guys run into that or experienced it with this game? Go ahead.
Okay, I have one answer, and the answer is Unity.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Unity was supposed to be... Black Flag was amazing. All right, I was so pissed off by Assassin's Creed 3, but that was a story thing. So Black Flag came out, and I was very wary and everything, and but I got it. Oh my god! Like I would have had this game's children. Like, this was it was amazing. I loved it. I loved every second of it, except for the underwater stuff. But that's I had panic attacks. But that's something else. But then Unity came out, and I was like, this is going to be amazing, because they're not going to fuck me twice. And they fucked me twice. They gave me a broken game, and I love playing multiplayer. It's my favorite thing. Give me couch co-op, give me online multiplayer.
I love multiplayer.
And it's great, but it was so broken. I tried to play with Wicked One. They boasted about their multiplayer, they boasted about their multiplayer, and it was so broken. It took us 45 minutes to figure out how to do multiplayer. And when this is my daughter Lily, it took us 45 minutes to figure out multiplayer. And then when we finally did figure out multiplayer, we couldn't see anything in the map. It was atrocious. I don't even want to get into the why there couldn't be females in multiplayer, because that pisses me off to no end. But the game itself is broken. It was unfinished, and it made no sense, and I haven't picked it up since.
Yeah. Gwen, you run into that?
Well, something similar happened with that SimCity game back years ago. EA put out the SimCity game, and you had to get attached to the server to play single player, but you couldn't even attach to the gosh darn server.
Right.
I forget which SimCity it was.
I think that was SimCity 3000?
Yeah, I think that was 3000.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. That was a while back, yeah.
Yeah.
That was 2011?
They've been doing that to us
it wasn't that long
for
ago.
a while. Yeah, they've been doing that to us for a while.
Yeah. So
Maybe
that's
2012 then? I don't know.
and the article, the writer in that article touched on it as a game reviewer himself, and I write game reviews, and I just finished one that, I mean, Firewatch is one that of mine that'll be going up tonight.
Beautiful game.
And beautiful game. I had a lot of issues with the game, namely the price point. But I'm not a visual novel guy, so I don't know if $20 for a 3-hour story is. It doesn't seem to me like a good value. I wouldn't pay $20 to see a movie.
I do visual novels.
And if you like visual novels, here was basically my final conclusion on this one. But granted, here's a game that's been out now for a week. I played it after it came out, so I'm not giving somebody a day one review. If I had given somebody a day one review, even the review I give, which isn't a resounding review, I give it a decent review, I think. But if I had released that day one and then the game came out and nobody could play it, I would feel, and I should feel, like garbage. Like if I were a reviewer and told people, hey, you should go buy this game, especially if I gave it like a 9, if I said this game is awesome, you have to buy this game, and then a ton of people bought that game and they couldn't play it day one, I would feel like crap. And that would make me change. But, is that just me? Am I different? Why do reviewers do that?
Well,
and obviously it's money.
If you know anything about the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, he put it Five Nights or Freddy's World, or basic, I forget what it's called, but he was so disappointed with his product that he actually pulled it because he'd rushed it. But he pulled it, and then he issued a refund, and then he put it back out for free. And I have never had more respect for a developer than I did at that moment.
Right. Yeah, that's
that's awesome.
So, yeah. To chime in here, I'm a classically trained business person, so the reason it happens, and you don't have to agree with why it happens, the reason it happens is simple. Review copies get sent out to the various people that get review copies, and they get it, 2 weeks before the game comes out,
right.
And, they play through the game before it's released so they can do a review of it, and they do this because it's an incentive to promote their website, and it also, the games company does it because it promotes their product. And a lot of people buy games on the first day. Now, the simple reasoning to fix this is less people buying the game on day one, but as long as pre-order DLC and things like that keep happening, people will keep buying it when it comes. Because, to be perfectly honest, the last time I bought a game the day it came out that wasn't a Pokemon or a Zelda main title was Saints Row 4, probably, and that's back in 2013. I don't buy games. I tend to not buy games when they come out anymore. I get most of my games through either Kickstarter or Humble Bundle these days. Yeah. And, it's just, I don't see the point. I mean, I played most Pokemon versions because I'm just a huge Pokemon fan. And I played pretty much every mainline Zelda game that's come out since, the GameCube was the dominant game system for Nintendo. And I've played the other ones too, but I bought them when they come out. I've bought Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and a few of the 3DS titles and what have you, the day they came out. It's just, I can understand why they do it. Pre-order DLC is a problem. This is something that, because they moved away about, I noticed it happening with Pokemon, but I'm sure it happened in other places. They moved away from physical bonuses for pre-ordering stuff. I mean, in my line of sight, I have a Giratina statuette vinyl figure that came when you pre-ordered Pokemon Platinum. And I have the Lugia and Ho-Oh ones that came with Soul Silver and Heart Gold. Right. Those were the last physical pre-order bonuses from any game that I got. They also did a special one with Skyward Sword. They did that Golden Triforce Wiimote. But they moved away from physical bonuses for pre-ordering. And when they did that, that meant more DLC stuff. Now, I'm not ethically against on-disc DLC, but I can understand why people don't like it. It's kind of a dick move. Honestly, you should release it, say, a week or a month afterwards, not the day the game comes out, because then it's just, you clearly did this. You clearly made a game and took part of it out of the game, and then had people pay for it.
And I experienced that. I experienced that. It was one of the Call of Duty games that had maps and game modes that were actually on the disc but weren't unlocked until the DLC came out. And that's kind of frustrating. But I also grew up when I started with PC games, expansions, there was no DLC, it was expansions. You had to go to the store and pay upwards of $15, $20, sometimes $25 to get the expansion. MechWarrior was one of my favorites, and MechWarrior 2 had 2 expansions that I remember, and in each expansion I believe was $20, and that was the way it worked, and you had to go physically buy them because there was no downloading of any at the time.
Yeah,
everything
mine was
dial-up.
Sims.
You're not going
Yeah,
to
mine was
download,
Sims.
an expansion on dial-up.
The expansions for Sims. Does anybody
Right.
remember the Sims games?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love
I
those
still
games
play
as a
the
kid.
Sims games.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so this is-
World of Warcraft is the one that everyone
Yeah.
knows is the one you have to buy. The expansions are like $20. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, so I just want to interject here.
Yeah.
That I think, okay, DLC, even day one DLC is a completely different conversation to me than just having a broken game.
It is. Yeah.
I don't agree with day one DLC. I have friends that do, and I have friends that love it, and that's fine. I agree that there are some companies like EA and Maxis in particular who are very greedy with their downloadable content when their content doesn't meet the price. The Sims being a great example because I have The Sims 4. I love playing The Sims 4. Every Sims game prior has come with a jacuzzi, but now I have to pay $10 if I want my Sims to have a jacuzzi, and I think that's just asinine.
Nickel and diamond.
Did they get rid of modding?
No, you can still mod, but you can't, there are base things that you just don't have anymore, and it's really depressing.
Yeah. It's because they
I
realize
wish they
people
didn't
will
get rid of Sims 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
that was
realize that their fan base, a certain large to maybe even majority chunk of it, will take this kind of stuff lying down, and they will pay money. I mean, it's the same reason why. It's the same reason why Angry Birds and Clash of Clans are two of the most profitable video games in quotation marks. Video games of the last few years. Even though, to be perfectly honest, they're not friggin' games. They're glorified Flash plugins. That's what they are.
But they're games in a sense. Go ahead, Crymson.
I still think they're games, but
I wouldn't call them video games though. I wouldn't call them video games.
This is one thing we've got to set though in
They're Flash games.
when we have a discussion of it. A game has a very simple, and I cover this especially in the Firewatch review because I wanted to be very clear up front how I viewed Firewatch while I was reviewing it. A game has a very, and Gwen and I talked about this, a game has a very simple definition. It needs to have a win or lose scenario. It needs to have at least a modicum of skill required. It doesn't have to be a lot of skill, but there has to be something that's required of you to put into it to get something out of it, and there needs to be a win-loss scenario. That's the definition of a game. Now, the definition of a video game, take that and add a video element to it. So it doesn't matter if it's Angry Birds or Farmville. If you can lose or win, and it requires you to either solve puzzles, overcome objectives, mash buttons in a certain order, or in other words, build a skill to overcome it, it's a video.
There's no winning in Farmville. There's no winning or losing in Farmville.
There's
really.
no winning or losing in Sims either.
Yeah.
But Sims
Unless
is
you
one of the most
die.
popular
Unless you
video
die.
games in
Yeah.
so,
Well, it had, but Sims has mechanics,
right.
and that's
See,
at the core of a game.
Yes.
I separate iPhone games from typical video games because honestly, I don't, unless they're designed to eventually release on Steam. That's why that PewDiePie game, the PewDiePie released last year, it eventually released to Steam. It's the platformer. I don't consider Angry Birds for what it is to be a video game. I just consider it because it's not. Because I wouldn't call somebody who plays Angry Birds for 20 hours a week to be a gamer in that same sense that somebody plays Call of Duty.
All right, hold up. Game
where we're
is
gonna
a term
disagree.
that's been around for centuries. Two kids throwing a rock at each other, trying to catch it is a game. You can't just get rid of some. Though that little
Did we lose
trying to pull back and shoot, that's like a slingshot.
Oh,
when
there you
people
go.
used to play slingshots. Playing the slingshots to hit specific targets is a game. Games
People
have been
who
around
play-
longer than we were born.
People who play iPhone games do not self-identify as gamers.
It doesn't matter.
Some of them
Gamer
do.
is a
Some of them do.
hobbyist.
Hold on, hold on.
Wait. Okay, hold up. Some of the best games I've ever played, I've played on my phone. One of my favorite games of all times is Elder Scrolls. Not Elder Scrolls. I'm sorry. Hold on, give me 1 second. I will tell you. Elder Sign. I was close. It's Elder Sign, and it started out as a board game. Now I have a little app on my phone and I paid money for this, and it's by Fantasy Flight Games, and this is Elder Sign.
Oh,
And
I remember that game.
It's all about defeating Elder Sign Omen. It's all about defeating the Cthulhu. And
I'm not talking about those kind of games. I'm talking about things like that are basic. I'm talking about like the freemium games. Those games. Okay. Angry Birds falls under that framework.
Go ahead, Gwen.
Clash of Clans.
It's still a game. It's just not a very nice or fair one because of what you're doing. It's like if someone said, "Okay, you can play. We're playing freeze tag, but to unfreeze yourself, you have to pay money."
Right.
I mean, Fallout Shelter is another one. Fallout Shelter was a huge one. It was basically mainly a boost for Fallout 4. Right. But we have Fallout Shelter, and you have to pay a shitload of money to unlock premium things in that game.
I hate pay to win, and I hate freemium type. I hate
they're still
free to play in-app purchases. I don't like that kind of stuff.
It's the same thing.
I'm morally against it.
I'm morally against it. I'm morally against anything where I have to pay a shit ton of money to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
That's why
I don't have a lot of money.
That's why for freemium games, they should release a version that unlocks everything for a base cost. Like, the game's free, and you can pay as many in-app purchases you want or not do anything. Or you can pay, I don't know, $10 to get the full unlock version, all unlimited.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if stuff like that happened, we wouldn't have powerhouses like Blizzard. And I agree that it sucks, but that's the way it is. Well, and there are people who are going to continue to pay it.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of the free market. I understand why it exists. It doesn't mean I morally like it.
Yeah.
No, I don't like it morally either. But you have to change human nature, it seems.
Right.
Exactly.
And it kind of goes back to, I guess to pull back to the original topic because we've moved away from it, but that is kind of changing human nature is kind of what we need to do a little bit here is changing ourselves and changing the expectations, because if a game reviewer releases a game review on day one and his only motivation to release that game review on day one is to get the information out before his competitors so that he can get the most clicks, so that he can get the most money, that's not the motivation a game reviewer has. I didn't buy Firewatch. Here, I guess we'll go back to this. I didn't buy and review Firewatch because I wanted to play Firewatch or because I thought I would like Firewatch. I saw a lot of really, really fantastic reviews for this game, and then I saw gamers saying the game's not fantastic, that it's okay. And I'm seeing these game reviewers out there giving it these amazing scores to talk about how it's going to change the medium and how it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen. And I'm seeing people who actually played it, gamers, saying, it's kind of okay. And then I looked at the price point. It's $20 for 3 hours of gameplay, and to me that's not a value. So I didn't buy it because I wanted to review this game or to get clicks or to get it. I don't get paid based on clicks anyway. So I bought it because I wanted to inform my readers whether I thought the game was going to have a good value or whether I thought the reviews out there were informative. That's the purpose of a game reviewer, to me anyway. So we as gamers need to demand better of our medium.
All right, I'm sorry, Trevor. I love you to death, but I have to interject, and I'm going to interject because I'm going to interject on behalf of Firewatch. And is it okay if I read something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So somebody did complain to the Firewatch team about their price point because, as you said, it's a 4-hour game. I've watched 2 different Let's Plays of this game, and I posted this on our Facebook not too long ago, and it says. Hey, I thought about not responding because normally people who want to a refund are rude and unpleasant, and I choose not to dwell on it. You seem nice, and I figured, what the heck, we'll have a conversation. Blah, blah, blah. The 11 of us took a lot of risks to make this, sacrificed financially to give Firewatch a chance. We all could have had much better paying jobs elsewhere, but we all thought this game idea had potential to be something special. We seemed to like each other okay, so we took a big leap of faith. 2 years, we say, let's give it a go. Worst outcome, we all hate each other, and we go back to various jobs. But we could say we tried. And then he goes on about how they're crammed into this teeny tiny office with used equipment, and these handful of people poured their hearts into this thing. And when we're paying for a game, especially an indie game, because I think there's not enough support for indie game developers. To me, the $20 is totally worth these guys dropping whatever jobs they could to support, what families they have to pursue a dream for 4 hours of the most beautiful entertainment that I've had.
Yeah, and that's that everybody's going to have a different experience, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people forget when we do have discussions like this. Your experience and your opinion about that value is in no way invalidation of mine, as mine is not of yours. It was my personal. I don't like visual novels. I've never actually played one. I just knew that the theme didn't appeal to me after playing this one. I know that I don't like visual novels, so I didn't have the same experience. And Gwen loves them. Yeah, everybody's going to love them. Some people are going to be in the middle. Some people are going to love them. Some people aren't. It depends on you. But
I like watching Let's Plays of them occasionally. The Telltale games.
And Telltale games, and those look interesting. There's a little more skill involved. There's the one big thing with Firewatch is it's a very linear story. There's no quick time events, which I'm not a big fan of those anyway. But at least in those, there's a fail state if you fail to complete whatever task it is. With Firewatch, that didn't exist. So in a sense, that's what put it outside the game category into the visual novel category for me, because it is pretty much the story they want you to experience without any sort of fail state. But again, the point is, I went in that because I wanted to inform my readers, not because I wanted clicks or because I wanted to get my review out, because I didn't release it on day one. And I think that's kind of the mentality that some of the game reviewers out there don't have. They don't care about their readers getting the best information about a game. They care about their readers just clicking a button so that the ads can pop up, so that they get dings on their whatever, pulling money in from the website. That's all they seem to care about.
Well, I also
it's capitalism.
I also have to wonder, okay, like, are they seeing the best view of the game?
That could be too, yeah, because sometimes review copies are they're sometimes alpha or beta states, and they're not exactly the finished product.
Exactly. I'm definitely not siding. I completely agree with you.
Right.
Screw reviewers. I've been screwed so many times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I wonder if they're present for, okay, like, Division. Divinity. What am I thinking of? Anyway.
Unity?
No. It's Tom Clancy. New game is
That's
about to come out.
Division, yeah.
Division. Thank you. Division just had its stress test. I love when a game does a stress test, when they test their servers, because we've all played at least one game, like World of Warcraft. I do not play for the first week that a new anything comes out.
Yeah.
Screw that.
Guild Wars 2 does that. They do stress tests a couple weeks before release.
So I'm wondering, like, I'm wondering if the reviewers are seeing the stress test. I'm wondering if they're just getting the most polished version of the time. I want to see them get the games with the bugs. I do agree that there are probably 95% of reviewers that are getting paid or just doing it for the money. Because, hell, if I put one out for Division right now, I'm sure it would get a ton of clicks because it's a big game that's coming out.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
No, that was it.
Okay. Go ahead, Gwen. Oh, I'm having a hard time following. Anyway, it is, and we have seen examples of a few, and they're very minor examples, but we have seen reviewers come out and say, "I don't like video games." I can't even remember the name of the guy. I think he wrote for Polygon, and flat out said, I don't like video games. He went to a release of a game where they were all these reviewers came together to watch this company display their game, and he didn't want to be there. And he wrote about not wanting to be there. And to me, if you don't want to be there, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's being a game reviewer. It can't pay that well. It's not the kind of job you take because you have to. That's McDonald's or working in a gas station. That's taking a job you have to because you have to make money. Being a game reviewer should be something you want to do. Like
Ben Kuchera.
Look at how much money Kotaku and similar sites lost recently. Yeah, they had enough money to pay ridiculous amounts to reviewers back then. Right. They did. They're based on the amount of losing six figures. Of course, they're being paid quite a bit if you just look at the numbers.
I'm the wrong job.
It must be. So yeah, I think we've exhausted that one. The second
we're talking about the UN game ban?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about that one because that one can be quick, and I think, depending on how everybody thinks about this one, but recently the UN sent basically an ultimatum to Japan saying that Japan, the country, the government, needed to ban the sale of video games and anime, and the definition was very broad. Anime and video games that had negative displays or violent displays against women. And up front, and of course we have to say this up front because everybody always seems to think you can't support one without supporting the other. Of course, nobody here likes violence against women. No one here supports violence against women. It is entirely possible to support the free expression of an artist's work, whether we like it or not, without supporting what that expression is. So, to me, anyway, this is, and whether we think the UN has any power or not, some governments listen to the UN. The UN this is a government body basically saying we need to censor artistic expression because we don't like the morals of it, which sounds awesome on paper, but if we go back and think, and I looked at this today because I was curious, have you guys all seen, you guys watch Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, did you see the recent episode?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Listeners, this is your chance for a quick poke your ears, spoiler look. But so how far have we come that the other night Rick and Michonne kissed on a couch and the internet went absolutely apeshit with a new hashtag. People were screaming and cheering and it was awesome, and yay, finally these two characters we've been watching for all these seasons have gotten together, and nobody cared that she was black and he was white. But not 50 years ago in 1968, a show did the same thing, Star Trek. If you've seen it, if you don't, if you're too young, maybe you haven't seen.
She didn't get paid enough to catch William Shatner.
She didn't get paid enough, but she also said that her cast were advocates for her getting paid more, and unfortunately, that's a different discussion. But still, back then, that episode was blacked out in a lot of states because it was considered morally wrong. So when we allow government as opposed to people to decide what is morally right or wrong, that's the kind of stuff that happens. In art, to me anyway, art is required to, it's the best way to challenge social norms. The easiest way to challenge a social norm is to release art that goes against the grain, to put art out there that makes people think. And because artistic expression is sacrosanct basically in most free societies, it is a right that everybody has whether you like it or not, that's the best way to do it. And who is the UN to say what is morally acceptable and what isn't, and as opposed to us, where we as consumers can say, I think that game is morally wrong, I'm not going to buy it, I'm not going to promote it, I'm not going to tell my friends about it, and eventually the game companies that make those kind of games die the way it should be, not the government banning them. The site might need to refresh.
I gotta stop eating now.
Yeah.
Alright, let me... I think we're gonna have to refresh. I want to make sure the stream is live on the site. That's what you get with a live show, folks.
Yeah.
Could be worse. It could be the one where we lost 75% of Russell's audience.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was bad. That was bad. Yeah. With the first segment was fine, and then we had to. I think you muted to turn off some music, and then I was awful.
Yes. All right. Yeah. It looks like we're back up. Looks like there's a little freezing on the show, but we're back up. Sorry about that, folks. I don't know what happened. My computer decided that it was a rock instead of a computer for a second there, and I lost everything. If you are watching the stream, hopefully you can hear it, but you may have to refresh and relog into the page.
Maybe send out a tweet to that effect right now.
Yep,
that might be a good idea.
Or you just ask Wicked.
But we're still pretty awesome being able to stream right to our website. And let me throw out a thank you right now to Highland Arrow and the folks over at Super Nerdland who set up this system that's allowing me to stream right to Frags and Beer Live, so that's great. Now, back to the action. Gwen, you were talking, and let's let you get back into your words, ma'am.
I was just saying, this whole violence against women thing will lose characters like Chun-Li and Cammy, because you can't be hidden women. We'll lose the ability to make a female tune in something like Dark Souls, because you don't want to have a woman get hit. You'll lose so much stuff over that, because you can't have women getting hurt, guys.
If it becomes too broad, yeah, it'll become.
It's already too broad.
It'll become a thing where it'll be hard to define what's acceptable and what's not, especially when you've got so many different entities trying to decide what's acceptable and what's not.
Well, bottom line is, and I literally just said this to Gwen, that's where banning things is where we started burning books, and you should never set a book on fire unless it's your ex's. Then it's okay. But you should, like, once you ban something, you have to start banning everything.
Right.
And it's horseshit. There's no line. They never draw a line.
Right. And and you open yourself when you allow it to happen. This is the big thing that I don't understand with people that do say it's okay on one side or the other of any ideology. When you say it's okay for me to do something to you, then I'm saying it's okay for you to do it to me. So let's take, I mean, if you take it to the extreme, right now the UN, and this is something I touched on in the pre-show and I'm going to touch on right now. The UN has Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Council. The UN or Saudi Arabia, where homosexuality is a moral sin that they are willing to kill for. So what if more of Saudi Arabia's buddies get on the Human Rights Council, and instead of sending an ultimatum to Japan about women in video games, they send an ultimatum to the United States and say, look, you can't have any more homosexual representation in games or anime or TV because we find that morally reprehensible, and you better start banning it. You know, if we say it's okay to do that to Japan, then where do we stand when we say, well, no, you can't do it to us? No, wait a minute. You just said it was okay to do to Japan, right?
Yeah, the Human Rights Council has largely been a body designed to attack Israel, as it has been for the last, 40-some years. They spend almost all their time criticizing Israel because there's a bunch of nations on it that hate Israel. So it's just what happens.
Right. But that's beside this point. That's
more what the Human Rights Council does these days. The Human Rights Council's been a laughingstock for the last 20 years at least.
It has.
I mean, as long as I can remember.
But there are a lot of cases of politicians in various countries who aren't laughing stocks that look at the UN and say, look, we should do what they're doing. We should take advice from what they're doing. Congress a couple years ago tried to impose some of the UN's firearms laws in the United States, which is completely unconstitutional.
Well, there was the treaty. They were considering a treaty, yeah.
Right. So
to
say the UN is powerless or can't do anything is naive in the extreme. Because sure, right now they don't have a whole lot of power in the United States, but what if enough people that agreed with what they wanted were in power and decided to accept something that they said?
Well, how it works with the UN, they pass a treaty. If a country wants to be a signatory on it, it doesn't matter if the president likes it. It has to pass through the Senate. I believe
right.
two-thirds of the Senate has to vote to ratify a treaty. So we are not, for instance, I believe Clinton or whoever was a signatory to the Kyoto Protocol, which is the global warming / climate change treaty back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And the Senate never ratified it. He submitted it to them. They never ratified it, so we weren't bound by the tenets of the Kyoto Protocol. So it didn't matter to us. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter how many treaties an organization passes. If the countries involved with it don't ratify it in their country or whatever process they use, it doesn't matter. Only countries that want to be bound by it will be. Which is why any Kyoto type protocol, global warming legislation that comes out of the UN, any treaty, India and China likely won't sign on to it, and that it won't solve the problem because they're the biggest polluters, at least from a standpoint.
Yeah. But that goes off a little bit of what we're talking about. I think it sounds like we're all pretty much on the same page that any time you allow somebody other than the consumer of said product or artistic expression to decide what's acceptable or not, I think that's when you really get on shaky ground that you don't want.
Well, it comes down to hate. It's just we have to do our best to combat hate. I mean.
Right. And
to
do that,
there's nothing you can do about it. Whatever sells. That's the typical free market.
But to combat it, I think you're right that we do need to combat it. And I think one of the ways we can do that is, and I've always been a proponent of art, especially books and movies, and the art that really makes you think, has to explore some of the dark parts of human nature. If we start getting rid of all of the stuff that's bad in our artistic expression, then we start to forget. I mean, those things happen. They're gonna happen. They're gonna keep happening.
So,
if we don't shine lights in those dark corners, we can't pretend they don't. We can't pretend they're not there. And the best way to make them is, for instance, an example, Tosh, Daniel Tosh. Whether you like his comedy or not, one of the things that I do like about him is that he makes racism look so ridiculous. Like he's